Let me give you first a rundown of all that happened today. The Prime Minister landed in Philadelphia after a 15-and-a-half-hour flight from New Delhi and went almost straight away into a bilateral meeting with President Biden. As you probably saw, the meeting was held in a very evocative setting at President Biden's personal residence in Wilmington. Following that, we got down to the events related to the Quad Summit. This, as you know, is the fourth in-person summit of the leaders, the sixth summit overall. And that was held at the Archmere Academy. Again, a venue very, very closely connected with President Biden. Prime Minister also, together with the other Quad leaders, participated in the launch of a cancer moonshot initiative being taken by the Quad leaders. This one aimed at addressing the challenges posed by cervical cancer. The Prime Minister had bilateral meetings with his other Quad counterparts, Prime Minister Kishida of Japan and Prime Minister Albanese of Australia. And the evening ended with a dinner hosted by President Biden. Now, some of you might recall that in my pre-visit briefing in New Delhi, I had referred to this visit having multiple themes in terms of the formats that it would cover and the messages that it was seeking to flag and underline. The formats are the bilateral, the plurilateral, and the multilateral format. And today we've seen a mix of the first two, the bilateral and the plurilateral format. All of these engagements today have given the opportunity to Prime Minister to put forward India's views and commitments for global growth, development, and peace and security. His, if I can give you also, in a sense, the overarching themes that have been reflected in across the multiple meetings, because we can get into separate meetings if you wish, but the overall messages that have come through in all of his engagements have been India's emphasis on minimizing conflict and division, leveraging our democratic values even as we pursue our development objectives, and highlighting the role of technology and the digital revolution in ushering in good governance, essentially to turn the disruptive features of technology to good ends. In the bilateral meetings today, all these themes found reflection in the interactions with the other leaders. With the United States, I would point to a very special feature of that bilateral meeting, which was the return of nearly 300 antiquities to India. So here we were talking not just about Vikas, but also about Virasat. In the plurilateral meetings today, which was the Quad-related engagements, Prime Minister underlined India's approach of cooperation, contact, and engagement for growth with a variety of partners in the Indo-Pacific. It was striking to hear the other Quad leaders acknowledge India's actions and also at the same time hear their expectations of India, which really underlines the need to continue to work and sustain this enormous trust that India has earned from its partners. And the last thing that I would emphasize is the aspect of returning once again to the aspect of technology, which was emphasized in both the bilateral and the plurilateral formats. The Quad fact sheet, which has been released, has a number of references to this. The bilateral meetings have references to this. The joint fact sheet released with the United States also has references to the technology-related cooperation. We have, for instance, semiconductors related MOUs that have been entered into. I think the main message, apart from, of course, the practical value of these technology cooperation agreements by the Prime Minister, was also the need to prevent the malign use of technology, as I said earlier, to put technology to good use. Just to give you a little bit of flavor of some of the engagements that took place and some of the specific major deliverables that we can take away from just this day. In the bilateral meeting with President Biden and also in the Quad summit, Prime Minister thanked President Biden profusely for hosting the summit and for his leadership of the Quad in recent times, and his personal commitment to strengthen the Quad as a force for global good. In fact, the Prime Minister today referred to the Quad in a very, very evocative way. He called it quick, unified assistance delivery. And the other members of the Quad, in fact, said that they finally understood what Quad really signified and stood for. The Prime Minister also mentioned that at a time when the world is ridden with tensions and conflicts, the coming together of these four Quad partners with shared democratic values is important for humanity. He said the Quad was here to stay, to assist, to partner, and to complement the efforts of the Indo-Pacific countries. The leaders took stock of the progress that had been achieved by the Quad over the last 1 year and set forth an ambitious agenda for the next year. And as you all know, India will be hosting the Quad Summit in 2025. Amongst the major announcements from this particular edition of the Quad, one I have already referred to, which was a separate sideline event at the summit, which is the Quad Cancer Moonshot, which is a groundbreaking partnership to address the challenges posed by cancer, and in this particular instance by cervical cancer. The partners also launched the first ever Quad at Sea ship observer mission. This will take place in 2025 to improve interoperability and advance maritime safety between our respective coast guards across the Indo-Pacific. The Quad Indo-Pacific Logistics Network project will pursue shared airlift capacity among our nations and leverage our collective logistics strengths to support civilian response to natural disasters more efficiently and more rapidly. The Quad Ports of the Future partnership will harness the Quad's collective expertise to support sustainable and resilient port infrastructure development across the Indo-Pacific. Partners will share with each other practices that ensure that our ports are able to maintain an acceptable level of service and infrastructure to ships, especially in the face of disruptions. A semiconductor supply chains contingency network memorandum of cooperation has been announced that would leverage the complementary strengths of the Quad partners to realize a diversified and competitive market and enhance Quad resilience in semiconductor supply chains. Of course, there was discussion of multiple regional and global issues, and amongst them the need for the reform of the multilateral system of governance, including the UN Security Council. Just to give you a snapshot of India's own initiatives at this particular edition of the Quad, you know about India's leadership by way of digital public infrastructure. The Quad leaders on this occasion welcomed the Quad principles for development and deployment of digital public infrastructure. They will work to provide equitable access and improve public service delivery at scale. The Prime Minister announced a grant of $7.5 million for making available HPV sampling kits, detection kits, and cervical cancer vaccines to countries in the Indo-Pacific as part of the Cancer Moonshot initiative. India will also offer technical assistance and capacity building on DPI in cancer care to interested countries from the Indo-Pacific through its commitment of $10 million to the WHO's Global Initiative on Digital Health. There's a commitment from the Serum Institute of India in partnership with Gavi and the Quad to support orders of up to 40 million HPV vaccine doses for the Indo-Pacific region. India will also invest $2 million in setting up new solar projects in Fiji, Comoros, Madagascar, and Seychelles. The Quad partners agreed to launch a maritime initiative for training in the Indo-Pacific. It's called MEA, to enable Indo-Pacific partners to maximize tools provided through IPMDA and other Quad initiatives. Last but not least, India announced a new category of scholarships for students of the Indo-Pacific region that would enable them to pursue four-year bachelor's level engineering programs at Indian government-funded technical institutes. Yes, one more point I would like to make. India will host the inaugural Quad Ports of the Future Partnership Conference next year, which will harness the Quad's expertise to support sustainable and resilient port infrastructure development across the Indo-Pacific. Apart from the Quad event, let me cover very quickly some themes in the Prime Minister's meeting with President Biden. As I had previewed in my briefing earlier this week, both sides on the occasion of this meeting exchanged agreements pertaining to the deposit of the instruments of ratification for Pillar 3 and Pillar 4 of the IPEF and the overarching agreement thereof. Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar and Secretary of State Tony Blinken also exchanged the agreement pertaining to a bilateral drug policy framework and the accompanying MOU. During the meeting itself, both sides discussed at length the ever-expanding agenda of the India-US Comprehensive Global Strategic Partnership, which has left no aspect of human endeavor untouched. They discussed ongoing cooperation in technology, in clean energy, in space, our engagement in defense and security, and of course the regional and global situation. Prime Minister thanked President Biden for his pioneering role in strengthening the India-US partnership over the last 4 years. In particular, he highlighted President Biden's legacy initiative of the initiative on critical and emerging technologies. There is a joint fact sheet that has been released with regard to the India-US part of it. I'm sure all of you have it, so I won't go into the details of the fact sheet. I just flag a few. For instance, the US-India roadmap to build safe and secure global clean energy supply chains. Under this, the United States has agreed to leverage nearly $1 billion in multilateral IBRD funding guarantees. This is to accelerate the expansion of safe and secure clean energy supply chains through US and Indian manufacturing of clean energy technologies and components. The leaders also welcomed progress between India's National Investment and Infrastructure Fund and the US International Development Finance Corporation to provide up to $500 million each to anchor the Green Transition Fund, as well as encourage private sector investors to match these efforts. President Biden welcomed India's decision to set a uniform GST of 5% on the MRO sector, and we welcomed commitments from US industry to further increase India's MRO capabilities for the repair of aircraft and other platforms. Just let me give you a brief snapshot of the Prime Minister's two other meetings with Prime Minister Kishida and Prime Minister Albanese. With Prime Minister Kishida, as you are aware, it was in the nature of a farewell meeting given the party elections that are scheduled later this month in Japan. Prime Minister appreciated in a very fulsome fashion the contribution to the bilateral relationship that has been made by Prime Minister Kishida. Next year is also the 10th anniversary of the India-Japan Special Strategic and Global Partnership, and it was agreed that this should be marked in an appropriate fashion. The two sides discussed economic cooperation and the progress of investment under the 5 trillion yen investment program that Japan has announced. Cooperation on semiconductors and the setting up of Japanese industrial centers in India was discussed, and there was also reference to the growing defense cooperation as well as people-to-people exchanges between the two countries. With Prime Minister Albanese, 2025 also happens to be the 5th anniversary of the comprehensive strategic partnership between India and Australia. There was a reference to the progress made under ECTA and the impact that it was already having on trade between the two countries, and the steps that the two sides were taking to conclude even more ambitious economic cooperation agreements such as the SICA. There was discussion on cooperation in defense and security-related issues, and the potential in cooperation in space and critical minerals. So, as you can see, it's been a full day, and we are already into the following day. But let me stop there, and if you have any questions, I would be happy to take them. Ambassador, would you like to add anything? Thank you.
Okay. Can we start with Prashant?
Sir, Prashant of the Hindustan Times, if I may, two questions. The first is about ISET. This is an initiative you were closely involved with in your previous role as well. We have seen semiconductor investments in the assembly, testing, packaging space and in research. But today's fact sheet talks about FAB. It talks about this being a watershed agreement, and it talks about the US Space Force and two Indian companies engaging in a strategic technology partnership. Could you give us a sense of the significance of this, and is this going to be India's first national security fab? The second question, sir, is on China. The US National Security Advisor in the morning before the meeting talked about how China will be a subject of discussion in the bilateral with President Biden. The Quad declaration compared to Hiroshima last year seems to have employed stronger language on developments in South and East China Sea. Could you give us a sense of the conversations in China, both in the bilateral and plurilateral space? Thank you, sir.
You take more questions? Ayushi?
Sir, good evening. This is Ayush Agarwal from ANI. I also have two questions, one on Russia-Ukraine. How much was Russia-Ukraine conflict discussed with President Biden during the bilateral? And was there any kind of peace proposal that was presented from India's side when it comes to resolving the conflict? Second, an additional question on China. How much was Chinese aggression in the South China Sea discussed with President Biden during the bilateral? Thank you.
Please.
This is Amritpal Singh from Doordarshan. So my question is, did Bangladesh come up for discussions, and if you could share the contours of the discussion?
सर, मैं कृष्ण मोहन शर्मा, भारत एक्सप्रेस से। दो सवाल है। एक सवाल जो आपने कहा कि माइक्रो टेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल ह्यूमन डिस्ट्रक्शन के लिए किया जा रहा है, इस पर थोड़ा सा लाइट डालें। और दूसरा, पूरे मीडिया में एक र्यूमर कहें या जो कि कुछ भी कह लें कि ट्रंप साहब की प्राइम मिनिस्टर से मुलाकात हो पाएगी या नहीं हो पाएगी, कोई शेड्यूल है या नहीं है?
Okay. Let me take those questions. I think, Prashant, your question about the new fab-related announcement that's been made in this joint fact sheet between India and the United States. As you know, this company, the Indian company, in this case, Third Eye-Tech, is a pioneering company, and it's been working for the last few years in close cooperation with Government of India entities as well as with US entities. In this case, as you have pointed out, there is a partnership between Third Eye-Tech, Bharat Semi, and the US Space Force. And this is a different fab in the sense that this has been established with the objective of manufacturing infrared, gallium nitride, and silicon carbide semiconductors. And it will be supported by the Indian Semiconductor Mission as well as this strategic technology partnership. I think what this represents is the increasing and very substantial design as well as manufacturing capacities that are latent in India's semiconductor sector. We have always been known as a repository of design talent insofar as semiconductors are concerned. But this shows that we are breaking out into the fabrication part of it, and with the right support, the right incentives, and the right access to technology and partnerships from abroad, Indian startups can actually make a global mark. Now, in this case, obviously there are national security elements involved on both sides. There will be applications of the products in national security areas. Whether you can call it a national security fab, I will leave the labeling and the adjectives to you. But yes, I would say that this is an enormously encouraging development, and we are sure that there are many more such startups that are capable of reproducing what these companies involved in this particular venture have done. I think a lot of you have, in your questions, have wanted to know about the content of the discussions and have pointed to specific countries or situations insofar as the Quad discussions as well as the bilateral discussions are concerned. Look, I think I should make it clear that these discussions are, by their very nature, all-encompassing discussions. When either two leaders meet or the four leaders of the Quad meet. So all subjects are up for discussion. Perhaps some receive more emphasis than others, but all subjects are open for discussion. different leaders in the Quad bring emphasis to different aspects, and that is what brings a certain amount of uniqueness to Quad as well. I will not go into who said what, because these are, in a sense, privileged discussions, but you get a sense of the areas in which there is commonality of views by going through the declaration that was issued at the conclusion of the summit. Insofar as this specific question of a peace proposal related to the Russia-Ukraine conflict is concerned, I think I had answered a similar question in the pre-visit briefing in New Delhi as well. I want to again underline that we are involved in a set of ongoing conversations with interlocutors on all sides. It is obviously the people see value in India's engagement in these conversations, and we are able to talk to multiple interlocutors. And this is not something that is going to have an outcome in the present stage, because there is still quite a bit of work that remains to be done. As and when there is something in the nature of what you have suggested, we will come back to you. But at the moment, these are very important conversations that are going on with multiple people on all sides of this conflict. You mentioned whether there was a question on whether there was a reference to Bangladesh in the discussions. Look, as I said, these discussions cover subjects that are in the region. They may be of bilateral interest to one party or the other, but they do have significance beyond the region as well. And in this context, a number of situations came up for discussion. Bangladesh also figured in the discussions, and there was an exchange of views with regard to the situation there. आपका सवाल था कि जब मैंने वर्णन किया कि टेक्नोलॉजी और उसका जो डिस्ट्रप्टिव या डिस्ट्रक्टिव रेफरेंस था, उसका तात्पर्य क्या था। देखिए, जो ये एक थीम प्रधानमंत्री जी ने अपनी मीटिंग्स में इसके बारे में जब उन्होंने वर्णन किया, तो इसका मतलब ये है कि हमने इतिहास में देखा है कि टेक्नोलॉजी का उपयोग भी हो सकता है और उसका बड़ा भयंकर दुरुपयोग भी हो सकता है। और अब मैं आपको पहले विश्व युद्ध या दूसरे विश्व युद्ध और वो विश्व युद्ध समाप्त कैसे हुए इसके इतिहास में नहीं ले जाना चाहता, और आप जानकार हैं और समझदार हैं तो आप समझ रहे होंगे मैं क्या कह रहा हूँ। लेकिन आज हम फिर से एक बार इस मोड़ पे आके खड़े हुए हैं जहाँ पे दिन ब दिन नई नई टेक्नोलॉजीज़ आ रही हैं, और इन सभी टेक्नोलॉजीज़ के ड्यूअल यूजेस हैं, इनके मिलिट्री यूजेस भी हैं और बहुत ख़तरनाक मिलिट्री यूजेस हो सकते हैं। और टेक्नोलॉजी के डिसरप्टिव या डेंजरस यूजेस को कंट्रोल करना और उसको एक कंस्ट्रक्टिव दिशा में ले जाना, यही तात्पर्य था जो प्रधानमंत्री जी की कुछ रेफरेंसेस रही हैं अपनी मीटिंग्स में। जैसे आप अगर डेटा या डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी को ले लीजिए, तो डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी का दुरुपयोग भी किया जा सकता है वेपन प्लेटफॉर्म्स में उसका इस्तेमाल करके, लेकिन डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी का सदुपयोग भी किया जा सकता है जैसे डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के माध्यम से। तो यही कहने का तात्पर्य था कि हम इसको एक कंस्ट्रक्टिव और प्रोडक्टिव तरीके से इस्तेमाल करें, ना कि डिस्ट्रक्टिव दिशा में इसको ले जाएं। और आपने मीटिंग के बारे में पूछा है। मैंने पहले भी कहा था, आज हम सवेरे से जब से आए हैं तब से एक मीटिंग से दूसरी मीटिंग में जा रहे हैं। जब भी मीटिंग्स फिक्स हो जाएंगी, और कल की मीटिंग्स के बारे में भी अभी भी जब हम यहाँ आ रहे थे तो इसी के बारे में बात कर रहे थे कि कौन कौन सी मीटिंग्स कब फिक्स होंगी, तो जैसे मीटिंग्स के बारे में पता चलता रहेगा आपको बताते रहेंगे।
Manish?
Manish Chand, India Rights Network. Foreign Secretary, I'm talking about the positioning and branding of Quad as a force for global public good. Prime Minister in his statement also said that not directed against any third country. Was there a meeting of minds, concurrence on that? Because if we go by the statements of the US officials and also the Japanese Prime Minister, there was a lot of talk about Chinese aggression and assertiveness. And my second question is about the atmospherics of Prime Minister Modi's meeting with Joe Biden. From the images we saw on television, he clasped his hands and spent quite a bit of time, a few minutes, I would say. What was the message, personal, if you could give us some insight into some privileged glimpse of what was discussed? Thank you.
We have a question here, madam.
नमस्कार, मैं सर्जना शर्मा हूँ सनमार्ग से। सर, अगली बार जब नई दिल्ली में बैठक होगी 25 में, तो दो नेता नहीं होंगे, जापान के प्रधानमंत्री और अमेरिका के राष्ट्रपति। तो उन्होंने कोई ऐसा मेन पॉइंट या कहीं स्ट्रेस किया हो, किसी पे जोर दिया हो कि ये हम ना रहें तब भी उसके बाद ये चीज़ें आगे बढ़नी चाहिए?
Sir.
Okay.
You have a question?
Yeah, I'm Shubhendu from DD India. There's a first ever Quad at Sea ship observer mission that has been mentioned. What is the scope of it? When we talk about interoperability and advanced maritime safety, is there also a mandate to defend partner countries given the number of skirmishes in the sea lately? Thank you.
Sir.
So, with regard to the question on the positioning of Quad as a force for good, I think this is the basis of, in a sense, it's the theme that defines India's participation in the Quad. Doing more good for more people and engaging on a constructive agenda, not standing against anything but standing for something. These are all themes that have been reflected again and again in India's interventions in the Quad. It was striking to see during the course of the discussions today the amount of interventions or the number of interventions that India has made, not just in what you might call its close periphery, but far off into the Pacific islands. We have projects being undertaken in nearly every Pacific island. So the kinds of projects that are there, whether these are hospitals or the construction of clinics or the supply of water treatment plants or the supply of ambulances or medicines, these are all aimed at human good. And I think every one of our initiatives has this as the theme, and it was heartening, in fact, to see the other Quad leaders acknowledge and appreciate the initiatives that India was taking and the kind of work it was doing in this regard. As to the atmosphere in the meeting with President Biden, as I said earlier as well, it was indeed an emotional moment. Prime Minister was aware of the fact that, in a sense, it was a farewell meeting with President Biden, and the fact that it was taking place at his personal residence made it all the more special. and in fact he mentioned to him that in India we say जब दिल के दरवाजे खुल जाते हैं तो घर के दरवाजे भी खुल जाते हैं. And he said that you have today opened the doors of your home to us. The fact that the doors of your heart have been opened to us has been known for a long time. So there was a very, very, very personal and a very emotional connect between the two leaders, and the setting of the meeting itself was very special. As I mentioned to you, insofar as the return of the antiquities is concerned, 3 of those antiquities were actually up for display in President Biden's residence, and the two leaders were able to inspect the antiquities there and take a look at them there. So it was a very, very special meeting in all respects. ना आपका सवाल था कि 2025 में दो नए सदस्य मतलब 2 नए प्रधानमंत्री या एक प्रधानमंत्री और एक राष्ट्रपति क्वाड समिट में दिल्ली में उसमें भाग लेंगे. जो आपने कहा बिल्कुल वही आज बात चल रही थी और सभी का ये मानना था. जो 2 लीडर एक तरह से आज अलविदा कह रहे थे और जो 2 लीडर अभी हैं, और वैसे ऑस्ट्रेलिया में भी अगले साल चुनाव हैं तो प्रधानमंत्री एल्बनेज़ी उसमें चुनाव में लड़ेंगे. लेकिन जो मुख्य बात है वो ये है कि सभी लीडर्स कह रहे थे कि जो काम हमने शुरू किया है और जो हमारी अभी तक की जो अचीवमेंट्स हैं इनको चालू रखना चाहिए, इन पे और काम करना चाहिए, इनको और इंटेंसिफाई करना चाहिए. किसी एक लीडर के सेवा निवृत्ति उनकी हो जाने से या अवकाश लेने से इसका मोमेंटम कम नहीं होना चाहिए और नहीं होगा. और एक तरह से प्रधानमंत्री जी ने खुद अपनी तरफ से पूरी प्रतिबद्धता जताई इस चीज़ को लेके कि जो काम इन चारों लीडर्स ने शुरू किया है वो आगे बिल्कुल पूरे जोशो खरोश के साथ जारी रहेगा. Yeah, Shubhendu, your question on the Quad at Sea ship observer mission. Essentially, the US Coast Guard, the Japan Coast Guard, the Australian Border Force, and the Indian Coast Guard have come together to launch this particular initiative in 2025 in the Indo-Pacific, primarily to improve interoperability. And through this effort, I'm just giving you one line of action because all of these are new ideas and they are therefore iterative processes. There will be learnings from the first that will go into a future edition of these initiatives. So in this one, the members of these 4 different forces will spend time on board a US Coast Guard vessel operating in the Indo-Pacific. And as the name suggests, this is an observer mission, and there will be obviously a certain amount of learning about practices, procedures, and tactics. And the idea is to see what are the best practices that we can learn from other similar forces. And this is the first mission. The intention is to learn and continue these missions in the Indo-Pacific. I think we have.
We come to the closure of this special briefing. We'll keep you updated as the visit progresses. Thank you very much.
All right, we were watching live press conference by Ministry of External Affairs from New York, where Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri briefed media on ongoing PM Modi's US visit. Foreign Secretary said that the visit had multiple themes: bilateral, plurilateral and multilateral. He said in the bilateral meetings, especially US, major significance was the return of nearly 300 antiquities to India. The discussion focused on maintaining global peace and security health. Also, he spoke about some of the engagements and said how PM Modi thanked President Biden for holding the Quad summit. He said he used a new acronym for Quad, which was Quick Unified Assistance Delivery, and Quad was there to stay, Prime Minister Modi said, and India will be holding the Quad Summit in 2025. He also spoke about the Cancer Moonshot Initiative, which was launched by Quad leaders to prevent, detect, treat and alleviate the impact of cervical cancer. He also said Quad underlined the need to establish Indo-Pacific inclusivity and prosperity as the grouping's shared priority. He said Prime Minister Modi also mentioned about shared values for development of humanity. And time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while. Stay tuned.